What's up, guys? So today I want to talk about neuroplasticity and introduce some of the principles of neuroplasticity because I think it's very useful to know, especially as rehab therapists. And neuroplasticity is basically our brain's ability to change, reorganize itself, and kind of adapt to new situations. And that's so essential to the recovery after brain damage, after damage to the brain, the spinal cord, our central nervous system. For the next couple of weeks or so, I'm going to go over each of these principles more in depth and kind of give examples for it, as I think that these principles not only apply to the neurological population, but also geriatrics, younger population, and even athletic population too. So, neuroplasticity, principle number 1, use it or lose it. This is a big one. There's lots of examples in our everyday lives of this principle. So our brain, every time we perform a function, a skill, a task, there's neural circuits or networks that are working. If we don't continue to perform that certain skill for a period of time, those neural circuits can actually start to degrade and kind of become less responsive in a way. Well, for example, for me, I used to be a pretty good piano player because I was playing a lot back when I was like in middle school or younger. If you ask me to play something right now, I will be super rusty. It'll take me a while to kind of pick it back up. And I used to also be able to dunk. Just kidding, I could never dunk. But I used to play a lot more basketball back in high school, and I was decent. So now every time I pick up a ball or shoot, I feel like I'm learning how to play basketball again. Neuroplasticity principle number 2. Use it and improve it. So this is kind of piggybacking off principle number 1, use it or lose it. Basically, a big concept that kind of demonstrates all of this is force use training. This is especially important in stroke rehab, in stroke patients. When they have one side that's more affected, I usually try to incorporate some kind of force use training early on in their rehab, whether it's just standing and having their unaffected leg on higher surface, a tooling step, and then their affected leg on the ground, bearing more weight, forcing that side to work more and to get that side stronger. And also you can do step taps with the affected on the ground, not moving, and then the unaffected is the one that's kind of moving, tapping and doing all kinds of activities. Neuroplasticity principle number 3, specificity. It's important to be specific with your training because it helps the patients learn and kind of put everything together and practice that specific task in order to get better. For instance, I have a stroke patient who wants to return to running. So we've been working on body weight support, treadmill, and also in the water to help with his timing, coordination, and weakness of that left leg. And of course, you have to make sure he is appropriate to practice the running. But when they are, you definitely have to practice the task. But it's also important to kind of break things down. For example, people with gait deficits, breaking down a gait cycle, figuring out which part of the gait they're having most difficulty with the stance phase, with hyperextension of the knee, and addressing that. But then it's also important somewhere in the treatment to really practice gait as a whole and really just gait train across the gym or put them on a treadmill, just getting that practice in as well. Neuroplasticity principle number 4, repetition matters, and it definitely does because the more you practice something, the better you'll get at it. So for a lot of my functional training, like sit to stands, step ups, I like to perform more than just the typical 3 sets of 10. What about 4 sets of 15? You're getting double the amount of reps and double the practice. And one way to promote repetition is through a home exercise program for the patients. Whether it's on the first treatment session or during the eval, you want to encourage patients to work on things at home as well to really increase the amount of reps they're performing a task, working on an exercise in order to maximize their gains from therapy.